Welcome in. I'm so glad you're here. Take a deep breath and let the edges of the day begin to blur. If you find comfort in stories like this, I'd be truly grateful if you'd like the video and subscribe. It helps bring more of these moments into the world. And if you're listening right now, where are you? What time is it where you are? I'd love to know. Leave a comment below so we can feel a little more connected, wherever we may be. Now, settle in. Let's begin. You weren't supposed to walk home today. The train was on time. The rain hadn't started yet. And you efficient, practical, you had every intention of making it back before the sky even considered turning gray. But then there was the bookshop. That little corner place with the crooked sign and the bell that chimes like a whisper. You stepped in for one book, just one. Maybe to skim something warm, maybe to hear pages turning around you, to feel like the world was made of paper and not screens. And when you stepped out again, the city had changed. It was like someone had painted the world in watercolor while you weren't looking. The pavement was dark and gleaming, puddles blooming like ink stains. Rain fell not in heavy drops, but in that kind of misty hush that seeps into the collar of your coat, into the hems of your jeans, a gentle undoing. You felt it immediately, not drenched, just softened. You didn't bring an umbrella. You rarely do, even when you mean to. They always break or vanish or end up at a friend's apartment after a dinner you barely remember. So you press your bag close and begin walking, collar turned up, shoulders hunched, eyes darting from awning to awning like a shy animal looking for cover. The rain isn't cruel, it's just persistent, and a little smug. There's a bus stop just ahead, the kind with a crooked bench and the tin roof that leaks in two places. You duck beneath it and press yourself into the far corner, hoping to wait out the worst. The city smells like wet concrete and exhaust, the kind of smell that always makes you nostalgic for something you can't name. You don't realize you're holding your breath until he arrives. You notice the umbrella first, black, wide, and neatly kept, not the flimsy kind sold at convenience stores for a $5. It glides over the bench like a curtain being drawn, shielding you both from the drizzle that has turned to proper rain now. You glance up, polite, almost apologetic, ready to thank him and then retreat again into silence. But then you see him, not striking, not in that immediate cinematic way, but soft-looking, thoughtful, eyes that crinkle when he smiles. He's not smiling now, just giving you a quick nod, a quiet confirmation that yes, sharing this space is fine, and no, he doesn't expect anything from you. He's dressed for the weather, not just in layers but in attitude, calm, unhurried, like someone who doesn't mind getting a little wet, who maybe enjoys the sound of rain. He doesn't say anything at first, neither do you. The umbrella hovers above you both, steady and sure, and you listen together as the rain taps rhythmically against it. It's a comforting sound, like a metronome set to a slow, steady beat. You shift slightly, your shoulders touch for a second, just the edges of coats, but you both pretend not to notice. A few minutes pass, maybe more. You lose track in the stillness of it. Then he says something, not dramatic, not clever, just, "Hot without one too?" And you smile before you even mean to. "It's a bad habit," you say. He nods like he understands completely. "I always carry one. I've had this for years. Still haven't lost it." "That's impressive. I've never kept one longer than a week." "Maybe this one's lucky," he says, half joking, half earnest. You don't answer, not right away, but you do look at him now, more fully. You notice the way his fingers grip the curved wooden handle, not tightly, just enough to keep the umbrella from drifting. His other hand is in his coat pocket, casual. There's a small paint smudge near his cuff, pale blue. You wonder what kind of person walks around with paint on them and doesn't mind. Probably the kind who leaves space under their umbrella for strangers. You hear the bus rumble up behind you. A few people shuffle forward. You both step aside. instinctively preserving the quiet alcove you've created. Neither of you move to get on. When the bus pulls away, the city feels softer again, quieter. It's still coming down, he says. Where are you headed? Just a few blocks over, Garden Street. I'm going that way too, he offers. We can walk if you like, safer than trying to dance between awnings. You hesitate, but then you nod. You fall into step beside him, tucked under the umbrella. It's not wide enough for two, not really, so you angle slightly toward each other. It creates a closeness that's not quite intimate, but not neutral either. Shared space, shared weather. You try not to think too much about how warm his shoulder feels near yours. The street is mostly empty. Cars hiss by in slow streams, their headlights soft in the wet. Storefronts glow dimly, like candles behind foggy glass. You pass a laundromat, a florist, a bakery closed for the day. The rhythm of your footsteps blends with the patter above. You live nearby? He asks. You nod. Moved here 2 years ago, still figuring out what counts as nearby. He smiles. I grew up around here. It's a good place for walking, better in the rain. You like rain? I love it, he says. It slows everything down, makes space for quiet. You glance at him. That's exactly how it feels. Like the world is speaking in a whisper, and you're finally able to hear it. He doesn't ask your name, you don't ask his. Somehow it doesn't feel urgent. Instead, you talk about the little things, the way the bakery always smells like cinnamon, even when it's closed. The crooked mailbox on the corner that's been crooked since forever. The tree near your apartment that turns red weeks before the others. It's not thrilling conversation, but it's gentle, comfortable, like warm socks and mugs with chipped handles. You reach your street too soon. This is me, you say, stopping at the corner. He looks up as if confirming. Right, garden. You expect him to hand you the umbrella, or say something like, take care, but instead he pauses, reaches into his coat pocket, pulls out a scarf. It's soft and a little rumpled, a shade of green that reminds you of old moss and storybooks. He wraps it once around his neck, then without ceremony loops it and offers it to you. You're soaked, he says. Take this. You open your mouth to protest, but he just smiles. I insist, I'll be fine. You take it, unsure why. Maybe because it smells like cedar wood and paint and rain. Maybe because his fingers brush yours when he passes it over. You thank him. He nods. And then, just like that, he's walking away, umbrella bobbing slightly, coat flaring at the edges with each step. You watch him until he turns the corner. You don't go inside right away. Instead, you stand beneath the awning of your building, pressing the scarf to your face like a secret. It's warm still, and soft, and you wonder just for a moment if you'll ever see him again. You don't even know his name. But the rain felt different today. It felt like something was starting. You wake slowly the next morning, the city outside your window still soaked in yesterday's weather. The light has that muted, pearly quality, the kind that makes everything look like it's been washed clean and tucked in. It's the kind of morning made for staying under blankets longer than necessary, for tea instead of coffee, for soft clothes and slower thoughts. You stretch lazily, and your hand brushes against something unfamiliar at the foot of the bed. You'd forgotten, almost, the scarf. You brought it inside last night, still damp, clutched tight to your chest like a borrowed chapter from someone else's life. You'd meant to hang it to dry. Instead, you folded it neatly, placed it on the chair beside your reading lamp, and stared at it longer than you want to admit. Now, in the hush of morning, it feels a little unreal, like maybe you dreamt him, the umbrella, the walk, the calm that had stretched between your shoulders just from standing beside him. You sit up and pull the scarf into your lap. It's dry now, but it still holds the scent from yesterday rainwater, pencil shavings, something woody and light. You bring it to your face, not to smell it exactly, but to remember. You didn't ask his name. You don't know where he was headed, or where he calls home, or how he takes his tea. You only know how he walks beside someone in silence, how he carries an umbrella like it matters, how he makes room. There's no logic in holding on to something from a stranger, but still, you drape the scarf over the back of your chair as if it belongs. You make teach him a meal, because caffeine feels too sharp for a day like this, and watch the steam curl toward the ceiling. Your apartment is quiet, save for the low hum of the heater. You live alone, and most days you're fine with that, content even. But today the silence feels heavier, not lonely exactly, just aware of its own shape. You open your laptop, fingers hovering over your to-do list. Edits due Friday, a proposal waiting for review, a blog post you promised someone you'd write. But instead, you click open a blank document and just sit with it, letting the cursor blink like a heartbeat. You wonder what he's doing right now. You wonder if he's thinking of you too. Later, when the rain starts again softer now, like a lullaby, you slip on your coat and walk down to the cafe on the corner. It's not your usual morning spot, but you've started coming here more often lately. The windows are always foggy, the chairs always a little mismatched, and there's a crooked lamp in the corner that makes the whole place feel like someone's living room. You order a rooibos chai and settle into your favorite table by the window, the one near the bookshelf of battered paperbacks and unclaimed journals. You pull out your notebook instead of your laptop. There's something about the weight of pen on paper that makes you feel more real on days like this. You sketch a list. Not a to-do list, but a to-feel list. You've done this before. Quiet ways of checking in. The rain sounds like a memory I haven't remembered yet. His voice was low, but not heavy. I like the way it sat between us. Sharing space with someone without needing to talk is rare, and I miss it already. You pause there, pen hovering. Outside, a man with a white dog passes by. The dog pauses to sniff a lamppost. The man waits patiently, umbrella hooked loosely on one arm. The dog is wrapped in a tiny raincoat. You smile despite yourself. A bell jingles softly near the cafe entrance. You glance up, as habit, as hope. It's not him, but your heart still does that tiny thing, the shift, the wondering. It surprises you how quickly someone can become a possibility. You sip your tea, let the warmth fill your chest. Then you do what you always do when thoughts get too soft and big. You work. You pull a manuscript from your bag, red pen uncapped, a novel in progress from a writer you've worked with before. It's gentle, a little clumsy, full of too many metaphors and not enough breath between them, but earnest, and you like that about it. You edit slowly, circling wordy passages, underlining moments that sparkle, adding question marks in the margins where something emotional wants to break through but doesn't quite. And then, something curious happens. You glance up, maybe just to rest your eyes and catch sight of someone across the room. Not a stranger exactly, but not familiar either. He's sitting at the far end of the cafe, back mostly turned, a sketchbook open in front of him. His coat is draped over the chair beside him, damp at the edges. There's a paper coffee cup beside the sketchbook, but he doesn't seem to be drinking from it. He's drawing, and something about the curve of his shoulder, the way his head tilts ever so slightly to the left when he's focused, it tugs at something behind your ribs. You blink. Is it? No, you can't be sure. You see only his profile, a brief moment when he tucks a pencil behind his ear, glances out the window, then back down. Your breath catches. You don't even realize it until it escapes as a quiet, shaky sigh. You look back at your page. At the underlined sentence you don't remember reading. You cap your pen, unsure of what you're even correcting anymore. When you dare to look again, he's closing his sketchbook. He stands slowly, stretches slightly. Not a grand exit, no dramatic rush, just a quiet leaving. like fog retreating from glass. You want to call out, or wave, or something, but you don't. You just watch as he slips out the door, umbrella in hand once again, held with the same familiar ease. And then he's gone. You sit with your tea until it cools, until the window fogs over again, until the story in front of you fades into the background and the one inside you takes its place. When you leave the cafe, it's still raining. You walk slowly, scarf wrapped around your neck now, not because it's cold, but because it feels like part of a story you're not ready to end. At home, you hang it on the coat rack instead of folding it away, a small change, but you notice it. That night, as you fall asleep, you think about the quiet, about shared umbrellas and almost conversations, about the stranger whose name you still don't know. And somewhere, in the space between waking and dreaming, you whisper to no one in particular, maybe he'll be there again next time. The rain lets up by morning. The streets are still slick, puddles clinging stubbornly to uneven stones and tree roots that have quietly raised the sidewalks over time. You step around them as you walk, coat unbuttoned, scarf still looped around your neck like a secret. You told yourself you wouldn't wear it again. It's not yours. But it feels like it belongs now, like it chose you, rather than the other way around. You take the long route into the afternoon, past the park with the empty benches and the wrought iron fence, past the cafe where yesterday happened in soft brushstrokes, and finally toward the bookstore. Not the tiny one on the corner from before, but the larger one in the converted post office, the one with high ceilings and floorboards that creak like whispers from the past. It smells like dust and printer's ink, and the faint hint of rosewood from the shelves. You come here often, though not as often as you'd like. The world doesn't always make time for wandering through pages, even when that's what you do for a living. But today feels like a wandering sort of day. Not for errands or purpose, just a quiet letting go kind of afternoon. You slide your fingers along the spines of used poetry books, running over names like a litany, Rilke, Plath, Mary Oliver. You pull one down at random, slender, dog-eared, loved before, and tuck it under your arm without even reading the title. It feels right, somehow, to trust your hands before your mind today. The poetry aisle is tucked toward the back, quieter than the others. You like it that way. It's near the old radiator that rattles whenever someone flushes the upstairs toilet, near the mismatched armchair no one ever fights over. The light here is soft, filtered through tall arched windows that make everything seem like it's taking place just after a dream. You sit, open the book, read the first line. There are strangers I've met in silence who changed everything. You pause, let the words settle, then reread them. You smile, just a little, and that's when you hear the footsteps. Soft, deliberate, not hurried, the kind of pace people take when they're not looking for anything in particular until they find it. You glance up and see him. It takes a moment to be sure. He's turned slightly away from you, his eyes scanning the top shelf. A different coat today, lighter, corduroy, dusted with whatever the air held this morning. He looks comfortable, like he belongs here, and somehow you knew he might. You don't say anything, not right away. You wait, holding your breath not in tension, but in something quieter, like hope folded in on itself. Then, as if guided by something gentle and inevitable, he turns his head, and his eyes meet yours. He doesn't look surprised. He smiles, slowly, like recognition was never the question. "Hi," he says. You nod. "Hi." He gestures vaguely toward the poetry shelves. "I didn't take you for someone who hides out in poetry. I don't, usually," you say. But today felt like a hiding kind of day. He nods, as if he understands that without needing more explanation. "Mind if I—" He gestures toward the armchair beside you, the one that's always a little too low. You scoot over without speaking, your knees bumping gently under the small side table. He sits. You're both quiet for a moment. Not awkward, just still. He breaks it with a glance at the book in your lap. What are you reading? You show him the cover. I picked it without looking, you say. Felt like the kind of day for letting a book pick me. He grins. That's the best way. Sometimes I think books know better than we do. You look at him properly now, the crinkle at the corners of his eyes, the shadow of paint under one thumbnail. He hasn't changed much since that walk, maybe a little more rumpled, a little more real. There's a pencil tucked behind his ear again, which makes you irrationally happy, as though the universe is trying very hard not to let him be anyone else. I saw you say softly before you lose the nerve. At the cafe, yesterday. He nods. I saw you too. You tilt your head, question unspoken. I didn't want to interrupt, he says. You looked content, like you needed the silence. You nod. I did. I almost said something anyway, he adds. But then I thought, maybe next time. You smile. This is next time. The silence that follows isn't empty. It's full of all the things neither of you are saying yet. You ask his name this time. He tells you, Jonas. It suits him. You try it out silently in your mind, attaching it to his laugh, his way of listening with his whole face, his umbrella. He asks for yours. You give it, and something inside you sighs with relief, like two pieces of a story finally being written in the same sentence. You talk about poems mostly, about how some days it's harder to love words, and some days they save you without meaning to. You learn that Jonas used to teach art at the community center down the road, that he runs a small workshop now, just kids mostly, that he paints but not to sell, just to breathe. You mention your work, lightly, how you live between other people's sentences, trimming them, smoothing them, pulling back the overgrowth so the feeling can shine through. He listens like it's the most interesting thing in the world. And just like that, an hour passes. You don't realize how long it's been until the bookstore lights flicker once gently, apologetically signaling that it's nearly closing time. You both stand, neither of you quite sure what to do next. Then he clears his throat slightly, hesitates. There's an art show at the community center tomorrow night. Some of the kids I mentor have pieces in it. I've got something on the wall too, though that's not the point. He smiles, sheepish. Would you come? You open your mouth, unsure what answer is about to tumble out. You want to say yes, of course, immediately, but something holds you. Not fear, not really, just the weight of hope pressing gently against your ribs. I'll think about it, you say, and you mean it. He nods, doesn't push. You walk out of the bookstore together. The air is crisp now, the rain gone, but the pavement still carries its shimmer. You pause at the corner where your paths split. He hesitates again, and then, without touching you, he says softly, I'm glad the scarf found its way back to the world. You don't say anything, just smile, and watch as he walks away, his silhouette softened by lamplight and mist. At home, you hang your coat, pour tea, reread the first line of that poem. There are strangers I've met in silence who changed everything. You whisper it aloud, just once, to no one at all. Then you open your calendar and circle tomorrow night. You don't usually go out at night, not because you mind the dark, but because there's something sacred about your evenings, about the stillness you've carved for yourself between dinner and dreams. Your apartment glows in warm lamps. Your mugs are always stacked in perfect pairs. The record player hums with whatever vinyl has the gentlest strings. Most nights, that quietness is your anchor. But tonight, you stand in front of your closet a little longer than you need to. Not in indecision, really. You're not dressing up, not trying, but you're aware of yourself in a way that's unfamiliar. You run your fingers over a soft cardigan, then over the moss-green scarf still hanging by the door. That one you don't touch, not yet. You settle on something simple. Jeans, a knit top, boots that make a soft sound when you walk, something you can forget you're wearing. It's not about looking nice. It's about not feeling like a visitor in your own skin. The air is cool when you step outside. Not quite cold, not quite warm. The city feels changed under evening lights, more reflective, more patient somehow. The storefronts hum softly behind glass, neon signs flickering like they're in on some small secret. Your breath curls as you walk, disappearing before you can see where it goes. The community center is only 4 blocks away, tucked behind the library and across from the church whose bells haven't worked in years. You've passed it often, but never stepped inside. It's one of those buildings that just belongs, the kind your eyes glaze over until someone invites you in. Tonight, someone has. The windows glow faintly with activity. Paper lanterns sway on the chain-link fence out front, a little uneven but full of effort. A small handwritten sign on the door says, "Student Art Night, all are welcome." You hesitate there, hand on the handle, unsure for half a second if you still want to go in. Then you do. Inside, it's warmer than expected, the kind of warm that smells like paper cups and tempera paint. Laughter flickers off the walls. The floors squeak in a familiar way, the kind that tells you how many feet have come through over how many years. You step past a folding table with plastic name tags and free cookies and follow the murmurs toward the gallery space. It's just a converted gymnasium, really high ceilings, exposed vents, string lights clipped to the walls. But it works. It feels like something sincere is happening here. The art lines the walls, colorful, uncertain, proud. Pieces framed in construction paper, thumbtacked with care. Some are bright and chaotic, others shy and minimal. Portraits, abstract shapes, imagined cities. You move slowly, letting each one hold your attention for just a moment longer than necessary. You don't see him at first, and that's okay. You're not looking for him. Not really. You're here for the feeling he invited you to step into, the quiet celebration of people creating things just because they wanted to. That's a kind of bravery you've always loved. You pause in front of a small painting tucked between 2 larger canvases. Its delicate soft strokes of watercolor, muted tones, a blurred outline of a street under a shared umbrella. 2 figures, half sketched, one reaching toward the other, as if they're still deciding whether to close the distance. The edges fade gently into rain. You know it's his. Before you even see the nameplate, you know. Untitled, it says. But in your mind, you name it immediately. We shared an umbrella once. You don't move for a while. The painting isn't perfect. The proportions are a little off. The umbrella's too large. One figure's face is missing completely, but it feels like truth. Like someone painted a memory that hadn't fully finished happening yet. You found it. The voice arrives beside you, quiet, familiar. You turn to find him standing just behind your shoulder, hands in his pockets. His face is lit by the gentle glow of a nearby desk lamp, and his eyes flicker between yours and the painting. "It's yours," you say. He nods. "It's not really done, but I wanted it here." You glance back at the canvas. "I don't think it's missing anything." He gives you a small, surprised smile, not the kind you give when someone compliments your work, but the kind you give when someone sees something in it you weren't sure was visible. "You came," he says. You nod. "I wanted to." Neither of you say more than that. You walk together through the rest of the makeshift gallery, shoulder to shoulder. He doesn't guide you, doesn't point out favorites, or talk too much. He just walks with you, pauses where you pause, laughs gently when a child runs past trailing glitter in her wake. You linger by the snack table, cups of lemonade in hand. You lean against a wall, away from the noise. He tells you about the kids in the class show. One of them painted his dreams entirely in green, how another tried to glue actual leaves to her canvas. He speaks with affection but not possessiveness, just someone proud of small beginnings. You tell him how long it's been since you stood in a room like this, where nothing was for sale, where nothing needed to be excellent to be loved. That makes him quiet for a beat. I think, he says, the best parts of us start out a little uneven. You don't know how to answer that, so you just nod and drink your lemonade and let yourself stay beside him longer than you'd meant to. Eventually, the crowd thins. People start gathering coats and complimenting each other with sleepy smiles. The kids begin stacking chairs and chasing each other around the hall with the leftover balloons. Jonas walks you to the door. It's dry outside, but the air smells like it might rain again soon. You both step into the night like you've done this before. He doesn't ask if you want to walk home. He just falls into step beside you, casually, as though the walk had already been agreed upon in silence. The neighborhood is quiet, just the soft scuff of your shoes and the rustle of leaves above. You talk a little more this time, about nothing mostly, about a movie you both remembered wrong, about how the moon looks better when it's not full, about the strange comfort of passing by lit windows and catching small glimpses of other lives. And somewhere between the community center and your street, your hands brush. Not on purpose, not completely by accident either. You don't pull away, neither does he. When you reach your building, the moment lingers. He stops at the bottom step, looks up at your door, then back at you. I'm glad you came, he says again. And this time, you don't answer with words. You just touch the sleeve of his coat lightly, a simple gesture, but enough. He turns to leave. You watch him go. The street is empty, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels full of something soft, like the promise of rain before it begins. Inside, you slip off your boots, hang up your coat. You reach for the scarf. You wear it now. Not for the cold, not anymore. Just because it reminds you that sometimes people come into your life exactly when the sky begins to clear. Sunday mornings have a rhythm of their own, slower, softer. The city itself seems to inhale a little deeper on those days, as though it knows how to cradle its quieter hours. Somewhere in the building, someone plays a radio low enough that only the bass line hums through the walls. The kettle on the stove ticks as it heats, steam curling toward the window in delicate spirals. Hands wrap around a mug without urgency, no deadlines, no plans, just the warmth of cinnamon tea and the hush of unscheduled time. The cafe has become a sort of habit, not by decision but by feel. It's the comfort of familiarity, the slightly uneven tile by the register, the little bell that rings half a second too late when the door opens, the mismatched chairs that feel like they were adopted rather than bought. People read here, not on screens, but with paperbacks and journals and sketchbooks folded open like soft secrets. He's already there when the door swings open and lets in a draft of cool morning air, a table near the window, a sketch pad open in front of him, that same tilt of the head while he draws, the same faint smudge of graphite near his thumb. His coffee sits untouched, likely gone cold long ago. He glances up, catches the gaze he's been waiting for. Smiles, not broadly, just enough to fold the moment open. Sitting across from him feels familiar now. No invitation needed, no need to fill the silence either. There's something sacred in it, like a cathedral built from shared quiet. Pens scratch, pages turn, pencils shade. Two lives existing parallel, side by side, without pressure or performative closeness. His fingers move quickly over the page-long fluid lines, then the pause, the shadow, the pause again. He draws as though the world speaks in outlines. A book rests nearby, spine cracked open to a favorite line. Something about the weight of small things, about how love lives in gestures too quiet to name. He notices, reaches for it, reads a few words aloud under his breath. I love the way your hand hesitates before turning the page, like it's saying goodbye. The words settle in the space between cups and elbows. A nod answers, slow and thoughtful. No one says anything more. Outside, the world continues its slow turning. Buses sigh past. Leaves scatter like stray thoughts. People walk their dogs in fleece coats, laugh softly into their phones, hold hands with sleepy familiarity. But inside, time feels suspended, every minute unfolding with careful attention. He begins sketching again. Another page, another quiet gesture. This time he draws something not visible in the room. A coat, maybe, a scarf, rain at the edge of a memory. The pencil moves with knowing. At one point he glances up, not at the world but at the one across from him, looks for something not in the face but just beneath it. The drawing's not shown, not yet. It stays tucked beneath the palm of his hand. Later the two walk, not far, just a meander around the block, cups in hand, steam rising between conversations that don't need to be deep to be sincere. There's talk of small things, the pigeon with the missing toe that guards the library steps, the new bakery 2 streets over with pastries too pretty to eat, the mural on Ninth Avenue that keeps changing without warning. A drizzle begins, light and almost unnoticed. Instead of rushing, they slow. One umbrella, as always. He still carries it, sturdy and reliable. The same soft canopy overhead, the same sound of rain tapping gently above like a lullaby. The umbrella doesn't quite cover both shoulders, it never has, but no one minds. They stop by the bookstore just to glance at the window display, new covers, a few old titles shuffled around, a favorite poet now featured on a handwritten card. The sign reads, "Tell us what line lives in your pocket." He turns, curious. "Do you carry one?" A moment's pause, then a quiet answer, "I carry too many." That makes him laugh, low and warm. "Pick one," he says. After a breath, a line is offered. "Love is the quiet turning of a page when no one's watching." His smile deepens. "That sounds like something you wrote." "Maybe I did. In another life." The street bends toward the river, where benches sit empty and ducks glide past each other like slow dancers. The two of them follow the curve of the sidewalk, still talking, still not hurrying. His coat brushes against the edge of the umbrella, soft with rain. Now and then the backs of their hands touch again. This time, neither pulls away. The walk ends not with a goodbye, but with a glance. "Same time next Sunday?" he asks. The answer is a small nod, the kind that carries more weight than words ever could. Later, back at home, the scarf comes off slowly. It's damp, again not soaked, just kissed by the weather. It hangs beside the door, patient as ever. The tea goes back on the stove. Another book finds its way to the armrest of the chair. The page opens to a line underlined months ago, now suddenly shining with new meaning. There is no need for lightning when the storm lives quietly in the heart. Outside, the rain continues, but it doesn't sound lonely anymore. The week stretches out like ribbons low and silken, curling gently around small moments and quiet gestures. There are errands to run, of course. Grocery lists to half finish and phone calls to ignore until they no longer need returning. A deadline or two arrives and is met with just enough focus. But even amid the structure of daily life, something delicate hovers just out of reach. Not a distraction, not exactly, more like a soft presence. A memory that hums underneath everything, subtle but constant. The umbrella hasn't made another appearance, but its ghost lingers in small ways. In the dampness of morning air, in the puddle that never quite dries beneath the bakery's awning. In the gentle way, the sky stays overcast as if remembering its own softness. By Thursday the weather shifts. The air grows heavier. Clouds settle thick above the city, casting everything in muted tones. Sidewalks take on that pre-storm gleam. There's the familiar hush of anticipation leaves turning upward, a breeze that feels like it's holding its breath. When the rain begins, it does so almost politely. No thunder, no drama, just a quiet offering, a reminder. It's the first real rain since that walk under the umbrella, and it feels different now. Coat on, scarf looped lazily around the neck, no umbrella still. A part of the brain always remembers too late, but there's no rush. Let the rain come, let it settle in folds and hems. The city slows with it, tires hiss over slick pavement, rooftops shimmer, people huddle under bus shelters and storefronts, a symphony of shared inconvenience and gentle laughter. Down the block, the cafe glows through its fogged-up windows. Inside, the air is warm. Cardamom and vanilla linger above the espresso machine. A quiet hum of conversation floats just above the clink of spoons. That same corner table waits by the bookshelf, worn smooth by elbows and time. The barista with the silver braid and floral apron offers a smile, already reaching for the usual, no questions asked. He's not there. Not yet. And that's fine. This isn't about waiting. A book opens to where it was last left off. Margins dotted with faint pencil marks. One sentence underlined twice, the words blurring just slightly from the water that soaked the pages last week. Some storms arrive with thunder, others slip in wearing a soft coat. The pencil is retrieved from the bag. A new sentence is added below in small, deliberate handwriting. This one wore paint-stained cuffs and carried an umbrella just wide enough for two. The bell above the door rings. Not once, not again, just once. No glance needed to know who entered. There's a shift in the air, like the room has leaned slightly toward the center. He's slower today. Not tired, just thoughtful. A coat too large for the weather, sleeves damp from the rain, that familiar tilt of the head as he scans the room. The look softens when his eyes find the table. He nods, not as greeting, but as if confirming something already known. No sketch pad today, just a book, hardback, spine creased. He sets it on the table, then peels off his coat with a kind of practiced grace. Water drips onto the floor in small crescents. He sits, offers a small smile. Neither of you speak for a while. The silence is easier now, less like space to fill, more like something shared. The sound of rain against the windows becomes a rhythm, not background noise, but something woven between the breaths and glances. He opens the book, doesn't read, just lets it rest in front of him. The title is a collection of letters written between two artists who never met, only corresponded. The kind of book that lives in fragments, where meaning is found not in plot, but in presence. Fingers curl around the mug again, tea, this time. Something dark and spiced, the kind of flavor that feels like an old friend returned. Eventually, he speaks. There's something different about this rain. The answer comes slowly. It feels like it remembers something. He nods. Yeah, like it's come back to finish a sentence. The conversation doesn't rush forward. It unfolds, measured, considered, words chosen not for wit but for weight. He mentions his morning class, how one of the kids drew a picture entirely in black crayon, then covered it in silver stars. How another got frustrated with a brush and just used her fingers instead. I used to think teaching was about passing something on, he says. Now I think it's about making space. There's something in the way he says it that settles deep. That word again, space, he always leaves it, for breath, for thought, for not needing to explain everything. Time passes. Eventually, the conversation turns, gently, unexpectedly. What made you leave, he asks. Not accusing, not digging, just curiosity softened by care. The answer doesn't come right away, but it wants to. The part of the story that's been heavy for so long finally asks for air. Not everything is said, but enough. There was someone, once, a long time ago, and not so long, the kind of relationship that looked right from the outside, felt wrong from the inside. A person who smiled too often when asking someone to be smaller, who said it's not a big deal too many times, who made love conditional on agreement. Leaving wasn't dramatic, it was quiet. It was a rainstorm that never ended until it did. His eyes don't change when hearing this. They don't pity, they don't flicker, they just hold steady. "I'm sorry," he says. Not for the pain, not for the past, just for the fact that it had to happen. And that's enough. A pause, then a question. "What about you?" He shrugs lightly. "I used to think being alone was the same as being untouched. Turns out you can be alone and still carry someone else's voice in your head." A soft sound of agreement escapes. Something wordless, something shared. The rain picks up, a little heavier now. It drums along the rooftop like distant applause. He stands, offers a hand, not out of chivalry, just connection. The walk is short, but meaningful. One umbrella again, of course, still not quite wide enough, still perfect. This time there's no awkwardness, no nervous shifting, shoulders fit naturally, steps match in pace, conversation flows like the streetlights spaced, quiet, consistent. Near the turn where parting usually happens, the umbrella tilts ever so slightly, not for vision, but for closeness. He speaks again, barely above the rain. "I think I'm learning that people don't need to be perfect to feel safe." The reply comes without pause. "Some people just feel like home, even when you've only just arrived." His hand brushes the back of another, lingers. Not held, not yet, but not accidental either. The rain keeps falling, but now it feels like shelter. The voicemail comes on a Tuesday, mid-afternoon, sunlight pooling across the living room rug in lazy golden folds. A mug of tea, still warm, a notebook open to a list never meant to be completed. It's the kind of day that feels untouched, suspended, like nothing sharp could reach into it. Then the phone buzzes. Not a number that stands out anymore. The digits have long since been stripped of their identity, no name saved, no photo to soften it, but the pattern is recognizable all the same. Some part of the body remembers before the brain does. That old tightening behind the ribs, that flicker of air caught between inhale and regret. He didn't say much. He never did. The message is short. "Hey, just checking in. I'm in town for a bit. Would be good to catch up. Hope you're well." That voice still smooth, still curated, still not saying anything but somehow managing to say too much. The tea goes cold. The notebook stays open, but the pen never touches the page again. The past doesn't knock. It doesn't ask for permission. It slips in quietly, like a draft under a door you thought was sealed. And suddenly, every corner of the apartment feels smaller. The plants lean too far toward the window. The couch is too soft. The scarf on the wall, his scarf, Jonas, is too vivid against the shadows now stretching across the floor. Everything slows. There's no panic, no outburst, just the old quiet creeping back in, the kind that doesn't comfort, the kind that used to be mistaken for peace. It's been over 2 years, time enough to rebuild, to relearn softness, but memory doesn't keep to calendars. It arrives all at once, in glances, in echoes, in the spaces where someone used to stand. The call isn't returned. Of course not. There's nothing to say, no conversation to finish, no questions to ask. But the rest of the day folds inward. Evening brings the sound of rain, not the soft kind, not the sort that invites tea and pages. This is the harder rain, the kind that presses against the windows, impatient, restless. The world seems to blur behind it. A message arrives not from the past, but the present. "Jonas, rain again. Cafe's too loud today. Want to walk instead?" The screen stays lit for a moment longer than necessary. Fingers hover, then pull back. No reply. Not yet. There's no logic to the spiral, no narrative to trace. just the slow unraveling, the questions that don't even wear words. What if he finds out? What if this is too much? What if softness is a trick, just another shape loneliness takes? Sleep is slow to come that night, the kind of sleep that arrives in fragments, wakes before the dreams do. By morning, the sky clears, but the heaviness doesn't lift. The cafe is quieter than usual. A weekday lull, familiar faces reading unfamiliar books, a couple sharing earbuds, a student with a stack of flashcards. The world moves on, indifferent to what yesterday tried to stir up. There's no umbrella today, no scarf, just a coat worn for function, hands tucked deep in pockets. Jonas is there. He doesn't smile right away. He sees what the day has made of the face across from him, and he softens instead. He doesn't ask, doesn't press. He simply reaches across the table and slides a napkin toward the notebook that hasn't been opened yet. On it, in his handwriting, "Let's talk about clouds instead." A pause, then a smile. Not big, just enough to remember what warmth feels like. The conversation that follows is light, intentionally so, clouds indeed. The difference between cumulus and stratus, whether or not cloud watching counts as a hobby, he insists it does. A case is made for assigning clouds emotions. A particularly flat one outside the cafe is dubbed mildly disappointed in humanity. The laughter that follows is quiet, real. Eventually, words drift. Coffee cools. Silence returns not from discomfort but from familiarity. Then, softly, "There was a call yesterday." He listens. That's all he does. No reaction, no questions. Just holds the moment still so it doesn't feel too heavy. "It's nothing," is said, but both know what it really means. It used to be everything, and now it's not. But sometimes the echo still shakes the walls. He nods once. A single, small agreement with the pain. No attempts to fix it. Just acknowledgement. Later, outside, the wind picks up. Leaves rustle like a whisper passing through branches. He walks beside her, still close, but not pressing. The scarf isn't worn today. The umbrella stays in his bag. Just the open sky and the streetlights coming on in slow succession. They pause at the crosswalk, waiting for the light to change. He glances sideways. Some people are chapters, others are footnotes. The look that follows isn't one of pity, it's recognition, like he's reading a story he's heard before, but this time through her voice. "I think I'm still editing that one," she says. "Take your time," he replies. No deadline. A breeze lifts a loose strand of hair, and instinctively, his hand moves to brush it away. But he stops short, lets it fall back on its own. The gesture, half finished, says everything. By the door to her building, the goodbye stretches longer than usual. "Tomorrow?" he asks. "Maybe," she answers. He nods. The maybe isn't doubt. It's space. That night, the voicemail is deleted. Not as a statement, just because it no longer needs to be there. In its place, the scarf is retrieved again, draped over shoulders with care, the weight of it grounding, familiar. Rain comes again later, lighter this time, rhythmic and warm. The past may visit, but it doesn't stay. And for the first time in a long time, the quiet feels like peace again. The apartment smells faintly of turpentine and chamomile. A mug rests near the sink, half full, untouched for hours. The tea's gone cold. Light spills across the wooden floor in long amber streaks, the kind that stretch far too slowly to mark time. A breeze moves through the open window, soft, dust-scented, ruffling the edges of papers left on the table. A painting sits propped on the easel, or rather, the beginnings of one. A blank canvas isn't always empty. Sometimes it hums with the weight of everything it might become. This one started with certainty charcoal outlines, the beginnings of a window, the rough sketch of a figure seated in soft light. But somewhere in the quiet, something faltered. The brush paused. The hand pulled back, and the moment passed. He hasn't touched it in days. It's not that he's lost interest. It's not even that he doesn't know what comes next. It's more that something in him is holding back, listening maybe, waiting for the story to reveal itself before trying to give it shape. That's how it works sometimes. Painting is a kind of listening, not to sound but to presence, to weight, to breath and stillness, and the emotions that hover just outside articulation. And lately, everything has been quieter. Her silence, though not loud, still carries weight. She didn't show up at the cafe the day after the rain. No message, no polite explanation, but not a cold absence either, just a pause, a ripple in the rhythm they'd both come to trust. He doesn't panic, that's not how his heart works. But something shifts. He walks more, takes longer routes through the park, carries his sketch pad and draws things he doesn't name, shadows on the wall, the curve of a hand, the weight of a scarf, always in soft pencil. Nothing permanent, nothing that demands clarity. At the community center, the kids ask if he's tired. One of them, eyes too old for her age, tilts her head and says, "You look like you lost a secret." He laughs gently, ruffles her hair. "Maybe I just misplaced it." Later, he thinks about what she said, about secrets, and about silence. He paints in the evenings now, not with intensity, but with a kind of slow affection, layer by layer letting the canvas speak first. The work is smaller than usual. A series of vignettes, doorways, windows, street corners glimpsed through mist, each one soft, unsure, but tender. One, in particular, begins to take shape. It's the corner of a cafe window, a red mug, a coat hung on the back of a chair. No faces, just outlines, just the echo of presence. He paints in glazes, letting one color dry before the next is added, a rhythm that asks for patience, that invites breathing between each brushstroke. The scarf appears in the painting before he even realizes what his hand is doing. Moss green, frayed edges, draped across the back of the chair like it's waiting for someone to return. He doesn't stop it. The radio murmurs quietly in the background, playing something old and slow, strings, piano, the kind of music that doesn't ask to be noticed. As the sky darkens, he pulls a fresh page from his sketch pad, not to draw, to write. Words aren't his first language, not the way color is, but tonight he lets them come. There's a rhythm in the way someone leaves space for silence, like a trust fall you don't realize you've taken until you've landed. I don't miss her like a thunderclap, I miss her like the room after she's gone, like warmth fading from a seat, like the scent left in pages after someone else has turned them. The pencil stills. He stares at the words, doesn't read them back, just folds the page and sets it beside the canvas. Not everything needs to be finished. Some moments exist simply to be felt. A few days later, the cafe is unusually full. Students with laptops, artists with ink-stained fingers, a man at the counter arguing quietly with a pastry about its price. The barista waves when he walks in, points toward the window table with a wink. He doesn't expect her to be there, and at first she isn't, but there's something on the table, the scarf, folded carefully, resting like a letter unsent, and beneath it, tucked just inside the woven edge, a small note, no envelope, just a square of lined paper folded twice. "I almost forgot how to be soft. Thank you for reminding me." He exhales slowly. She's not far, not gone, just remembering. The scarf is lifted gently, held for a moment in both hands, then draped over his arm with care. He sits, orders nothing, just waits. Outside, the light changes, afternoon easing into early dusk. The rain begins again, not sudden but certain, a familiar rhythm on the windows. And then, just as the streetlights blink on. She walks in, no coat, hair slightly damp from the mist, eyes tired but clear. She stops when she sees him, smiles, slow and quiet. No apologies are spoken, none needed. He stands, pushes the scarf across the table. I was keeping it safe. She touches it once, doesn't take it, just smiles again. They sit, no rush, no pressure. After a while, he pulls out the folded sketch, the one of the cafe window, the scarf, the chair with no face. He doesn't say anything, just slides it across. She stares at it for a long time, then nods. They sit like that until the cafe empties, until the rain slows again, until silence becomes something shared once more, not something to overcome. When they part that evening, no words are exchanged about the pause that had come between them, because the space was never a goodbye. It was just a breath, and now the exhale. The invitation comes on a quiet Thursday afternoon, tucked into a moment between errands and a second cup of tea. Not a grand gesture, no flowers, no nervous energy, just a message. Come to dinner, I'll cook, or try to. Friday night? There's no hesitation this time. No pause while the past considers interrupting. Just a small, quiet yes sent back across the wire. Friday arrives in its own time. The sky is clear, but the air still carries the memory of rain, pavement damp in places, light puddles caught in the cracks of the sidewalks, not stormy, just softened. A city exhaling. The apartment is tidied by late afternoon, not scrubbed, not staged, just made comfortable. A candle lit in the entryway, slow-burning sandalwood. A playlist hums low from the corner speaker, gentle strings, the occasional piano, the kind of music that sounds like the space between thoughts. The table is small but steady, 2 mismatched plates, one slightly chipped, a linen napkin folded neatly beside each, water glasses that catch the light. A plant sits between the salt and pepper, its leaves glossy and unsure of their direction. There's something grounding about the preparations, not anxious, not performative, just care, attention paid to small things. The vegetables chopped slowly, a sauce stirred without rush. Bread warmed in the oven, because the idea of cold bread felt wrong tonight. The scarf, always present, hangs from the peg by the door, not part of the evening but not hidden either, just there, as it has been, as he has been. When the knock comes, it's early by 5 minutes, not so early as to suggest nerves, just enough to say he was ready. He stands in the hallway with a paper bag in hand, a bottle of wine white, slightly chilled, and something else, wrapped in paper, a loaf of bread from the bakery on Threerd, the one with the lemon olive rolls and soft lavender buns. No umbrella this time. He steps inside, removes his coat slowly. Eyes scan the space, not to assess, but to settle. They land on the scarf, then on the table, then on her. He smiles. Smells like someone knew what they were doing. Don't get ahead of yourself, she replies. You haven't tasted it yet. They move through the evening gently, not as hosts and guests, but as something in between. Friends, maybe, or something softer, more careful. The food is simple. Roasted vegetables, a creamy soup that clings to the spoon, bread torn by hand. The wine is poured but barely touched, more sips than glasses. The warmth comes from elsewhere. Conversation is easy, about things that don't matter much, books half read, movies remembered incorrectly, the strange trend of naming houseplants like pets. He admits he once had a fern named Maurice. She confesses to talking to her kettle while waiting for it to boil. They laugh, not loudly, but with the kind of laughter that lingers long after the sound is gone. Between courses, he offers to help wash up. She waves him off. You cooked, he says. You brought bread, she replies. He leans against the counter, arms crossed. watching as the plates are rinsed. I didn't want tonight to be a big thing, he says. I just wanted this. She nods without looking up. It's enough. Later, they sit by the window with tea. The lights outside blur through the glass, casting long, quiet reflections. The air inside hums with soft fullness. There's a moment, one of those slow, unmistakable moments. The space between them narrows, eyes meet, the world fades to peripheral sound. Fingers rest just close enough on the rim of the mug to make contact inevitable. And yet, it doesn't happen. The kiss, if it was coming, never does. Instead, the power flickers. A small stutter in the room's breath. The lights blink once, twice, then hold, then fade. A beat of silence, then darkness. For a moment, neither moves. Then laughter, quiet, disbelieving, shared. He fumbles for his phone. She reaches for a match. The candle at the table still glows in the entryway, casting long shadows across the floor. The apartment feels smaller in the dark, but cozier too. A flashlight beam finds its way to the cabinet, to a small tin of tea lights. They're lit with slow ceremony, spread across the table, the windowsill, the edge of the bookshelf. The room glows like a forgotten memory, everything warm and flickering. He sits on the floor beside the armchair. She joins, legs tucked beneath, hands around a fresh mug. Tell me something, he says, voice barely above the candlelight. Like what? Something you've never told anyone. A pause. Then softly, I used to write love letters to no one in particular, just wrote them, left them in books sometimes. He smiles gently. I'd have liked to find one of those. She looks at him, the candlelight catching the curve of her cheek. Maybe one was meant for you. His turn. I paint doors when I'm stuck. Always the same shape, same grain. Don't know why. Do they open? Sometimes. Sometimes they're just there. Outside, the wind picks up. The tree near the window rustles. A car passes. Someone laughs, far down the street. Inside, nothing changes. They sit there until the candles begin to burn low, until the silence stretches again, not empty, but full. When he stands to leave, it's slow, as if part of him isn't entirely sure he wants to. At the door, there's no hug, no lingering touch, just a glance, a moment. We'll get it right one day, he says, and then he's gone. The scarf is touched once before bed. The candle is snuffed. She lies in the quiet and listens to her own breath. And for once, it's enough. The morning after the dinner passes like a low tide, unhurried, careful not to disturb what was left behind the night before. The teacups are still on the windowsill. The candles have burned themselves down to stubs. A faint trace of rosemary and lemon clings to the kitchen air. Nothing is out of place, and yet something in the apartment feels subtly rearranged, like a page turned during sleep, its edges still warm from the shift. The scarf is still on its hook by the door. It hasn't been worn since that night, not because the weather hasn't called for it, but because it feels like it's already said what it needed to say. In the following days, life picks up its usual pace. Freelance projects come in with the urgency of clients who think their problems are new. Grocery lists grow longer. Socks go unmatched in the dryer. The hum of routine returns. But something hovers underneath. A silence. Not a bad one. Not quite. Just a distance. He doesn't come to the cafe that Sunday. There's no message. Just the space where he usually would have been. The chair by the window still pulled out at an angle, the condensation on the glass untouched by breath or finger. The waitress doesn't ask, but her glance lingers for a second too long when bringing the tea. The book stays open longer than usual. The words blur more than once. Outside, the rain is soft again. misting the pavement with a tenderness that feels almost deliberate. Another day passes, then another. The message arrives late on a Tuesday evening, just after dinner. The phone lights up in that quiet, patient way it does when it's holding something not quite urgent, but not insignificant either. I've been offered a workshop, out of town, 3 months, teaching teens at an art center on the coast. No preamble, no emoji, just facts. The next message follows, almost before the first is fully absorbed. I don't know yet if I'll say yes. I wanted to tell you first. The world tilts, gently, not sharply, just enough to notice the edges. There's no immediate response. The cursor blinks, waiting for something that can't be found in words. Eventually, one is typed. That sounds like something you were made for. Sent, and then the weight of it, not the weight of him leaving. The weight of not knowing whether it's good or bad that it feels so right. The apartment grows quiet again. The scarf still hangs. The candles are replaced. The days move on. Later that week, the walk leads to the park, the one with the curved benches and the rusted fountain that barely works anymore. The place where things seem to pause just long enough to let thought catch up. A sketchpad rests on the lap, not to draw, just to hold. The fountain bubbles faintly. 2 pigeons argue over a crust of bread with half-hearted enthusiasm. A memory drifts in. The painting he showed weeks ago, the cafe window, the empty chair, the scarf, the chair with no face. A breath escapes, long, quiet. The wind picks up. By the time he calls, it's already dark outside. His voice carries that softness it always has, that careful, deliberate ease. I leave next week. There's no need to ask where. He doesn't explain why he's going, doesn't try to justify it, just says it like it's weather, like it's the next necessary season. And she listens, because that's what they do, they listen. He doesn't ask if she wants him to stay, and she doesn't ask him not to go. Before the call ends, he says, "There's something I want you to have before I leave." The next day, the cafe feels different. He's already there. This time, there's no sketchpad, no book, just a small wrapped canvas, square, light. It rests on the table between 2 mugs. "I painted it before the offer came," he says. "Didn't know why, now I do." She doesn't unwrap it right away. They sit for a while, talk gently, about coastal towns and kids who need art more than anyone knows, about fog that rolls in like breath, about the smell of paint on salt-heavy air. They don't talk about goodbye. When he stands to leave, the scarf isn't mentioned, but he brushes his fingers along it once as he passes, like it's a page he's read many times and now must close. At home, the canvas is unwrapped slowly. Inside, a painting unlike the others, not soft, not incomplete. This one has clarity. 2 figures under an umbrella, fully drawn, one reaching, one waiting. The space between them nearly closed. Below the painting, in the corner, a note is written in pale pencil. Not every storm needs to end before something begins. The painting is hung that evening, not above the bed, not by the door, but on the wall by the table, the place where things are most often spoken, most often shared. Weeks pass, then a month. Letters arrive, handwritten, each one tucked into a different book from the cafe shelf, waiting quietly to be discovered. Notes filled with sketches and fragments of thoughts, observations about sea, air, and brushes ruined by enthusiasm. Descriptions of students who remind him of people they both know. Each letter ends with something simple. Still listening. In return, a letter is sent. Just one, folded inside a paperback of borrowed poems. It reads, "There's a place on the couch you still belong to, and the kettle still waits to be spoken to. No promise, no question, just presence. And for now, that's enough. By the time the leaves start to turn, the rhythm has changed. Mornings arrive slowly. There's a certain stretch to them now, a quiet pull between what once was routine and what now lingers gently in its place. The kettle hums a little longer. The curtains are opened more deliberately, and the space beside the couch where he used to sit still dips slightly, as if memory has a weight of its own. His painting hangs just above that spot. It catches the morning light now and then, soft and slanted through the window. The umbrella above the two figures yourself among them is always the first thing to glow. Sometimes, when the wind nudges the window just enough, the light flickers across it, making it look like the rain in the painting is still falling. That's how it feels most days. Not that he's gone, just that the rain hasn't stopped falling yet. Letters come in slowly, steadily, 1 or 2 a week, never with warning, never rushed. Each in a different envelope, some torn at the edges, others carefully sealed. The return address never quite the same, as though he's always just a little further down the coast than before. He writes about small things. The tea shop in the harbor town where the owner wears only shades of blue and speaks in haiku. The boy in the class who refuses to paint unless there's music playing. The way sea salt dries along the windows of his rented apartment, outlining invisible tides. Every letter ends the same way. Still listening, and so you write back. Not as often, not because there's nothing to say, but because the words take time now. They're not updates, they're not news, they're windows, slowly opened. You write them by hand on thick paper, often at the kitchen table late at night, the city quiet, the scarf draped across your shoulders like an old friend. You tell him about the way the vines have started curling around the edge of the bookcase, about the cafe now offering cinnamon scones and how they taste like childhood mornings, about the book you found with a folded napkin still tucked inside, scrawled with a single sentence. Some days we dream in reverse. You don't tell him everything, not the way your fingers still hesitate over your tea mug sometimes, tracing the pattern he once did. Not the ache that rises quietly on Sundays when the chair across from yours sits empty. Not the way you sometimes read his letters aloud just to hear the sound of him again. But maybe he already knows. The first letter with a pressed leaf inside arrives in early October. Oak, golden-edged, carefully preserved between 2 sheets of parchment. It falls into your lap when the envelope is opened, unannounced and perfect. Beneath it, only 3 words. It turned early. You pin it to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a typewriter. Every time you pass it, it reminds you that time, like trees, doesn't ask permission to change. You reply with a photo. The park bench where you once watched pigeons fight over crumbs, now surrounded by crisp yellow. No caption, just the image, a shared place held quietly between the 2 of you. The days continue like that, measured, mellow, wrapped in layers. When the wind comes sharper, the painting by the couch is taken down just long enough to dust the frame. A ritual somehow, a small tending. It's late one evening when the power flickers again, not dramatically, just a blink, a memory. The lights recover almost instantly, but your heart still stutters with the echo of that moment, the candles, the almost kiss, the words not said. The next letter arrives the following morning. There was a storm last night, not heavy but the kind that walks the house. My windows shook and I thought of yours, how they fog up when you read by them. I haven't painted this week, just listened. A Polaroid falls from the envelope, the edge of a dock, mist just lifting, a thermos resting on the wood, his sketchbook in the background, closed but present. You hold the photo in both hands, feel its weight, its quiet offer. It doesn't hurt, not like missing used to. Now, it feels like waiting in a room that still holds his scent, like falling asleep knowing a voice will return again in time. The next day, you write. Sometimes I forget what we said out loud and what we just felt between us, but I remember your hand reaching. That's never blurred. The scarf stays wrapped around your chair now, not worn, not stored, just there, a witness. The rain returns, heavier this time. It hammers the window at dawn, waking you from a dream you can't quite recall. Something about a train, a hand held across distance, an umbrella passed between strangers who were no longer strangers. The letterbox is checked before breakfast. Another envelope, this one thinner. Inside, a train ticket, return dated, no message. Just that, and a second slip of paper. Coming home, no ceremony, no expectation, just the truth of it. The scarf is pulled from the chair and folded neatly. The painting above the couch is touched gently, fingers brushing the edge of the canvas. The apartment doesn't change, but it feels like it's waiting too. It rains the day he comes back, not unexpectedly. The weather had whispered it for days, hanging low over the city, folding the sky into that gentle gray that settles like a sigh. Puddles gather in their usual corners. The scent of damp earth rises from the pavement. The trees shimmer with the weight of it, quiet and grateful. He didn't say what time his train would arrive. The letter didn't include a platform or a plea, just a date, and the certainty tucked between two words, coming home. The scarf is worn again, pulled gently from the chair, its folds still remembering the shape of shoulders. It smells like dust and cedar and something softer, like safety. There's no rush in dressing, no frantic brushing of hair, no checking the mirror twice. The quiet is not nervous, it's reverent. This is a moment already written, just waiting to be stepped into. The walk to the station is slow, deliberate. Streets familiar in the way one's own hands are lines traced from memory, steps measured without thought. The city is neither busy nor still, just humming along in that in-between state where anything could happen and nothing needs to. Umbrellas open around corners. Colors bloom briefly and vanish. People pass by, their lives unfolding in hundreds of private directions. And there, through the blur of rain and footfall and passing headlights, a figure appears. At first, not quite real, just motion, just shadow, then form, and then him. He's holding the umbrella. Of course he is. Black, wide, unchanged. He stands at the edge of the platform, coat damp at the shoulders, hands steady, the same tilt to his head, the same slow smile that doesn't ask for anything but is always a kind of offering. He sees her before she speaks, or maybe even before the sound of her boots finds the pavement behind him. The umbrella tilts just slightly. An opening, a question, no words, not yet. She steps beneath it. Their shoulders touch, lightly, a press of coat against coat, soft and certain. He breathes her name, low and fond. "I thought you'd be here," he says. She answers simply, "So did I." They begin to walk. No direction offered, none needed. The umbrella shifts above them with each step, its curved frame catching the city's reflection in small silver arcs. Rain drips from its edges in quiet, rhythmic lines. Their hands swing gently between them until they meet. Not an accident. Fingers find fingers, fit together like they've been practicing in separate dreams. There is no announcement in it, no thunderclap, just the familiar warmth of skin, the safety of something that's never rushed, never demanded. The street they walk down is old, lined with shop fronts that seem to lean inward like listeners. The cafe passes on the right, the bookstore on the left. Every memory they built waits quietly, not to interrupt, but to nod in recognition. "Did you paint while you were gone?" she asks, voice just above the hush of rain. "I did," he says. "Doors mostly, windows, but no umbrellas." "Why not?" He smiles. because the one I wanted to paint was here. They pass the bakery where cinnamon still lingers even through the glass. A new display sits in the window, tiny scones dusted with sugar, arranged like a constellation. She tugs gently at his hand. Come in? He nods. The umbrella folds as they step beneath the awning, droplets scattering to the ground. Inside, the bell rings a familiar tune. Warmth wraps around them, like a held breath released. They sit in the corner. 2 mugs, 1 sugar, no cream, 1 black. The conversation wanders, slowly, patiently, about the town by the sea, the students who made him laugh, the wind that stole his hat once and tossed it into the tide, about the letters she never sent, the one she wrote 3 times and tore up before it left her desk. He pulls something from his coat pocket, a folded page, ink slightly smudged. I kept this one, he says. Didn't send it. Meant to read it when I got back. She nods. Will you? He doesn't answer. Just opens it. His voice is low, steady. I thought love was supposed to shout. Fireworks, grand gestures. But you taught me it's not. You taught me it's the brush of a shoulder, the weight, the space left for silence. It's the way a scarf can be both a gift and a memory. It's how I started drawing umbrellas just to feel close to someone who once walked beneath mine. It's this, the knowing that even if I never made it back, part of me would always be sitting across from you, holding your words like shelter. He folds the letter again, sets it down. Her hand covers his. No response needed. Later they walk home. The umbrella opens again, but this time, neither of them cares that it's too small. Rain finds their shoulders. Their coats cling slightly at the seams. The air is cool, and their joined hands swing as if set to music only they can hear. The painting still hangs by the table. When the door opens and light spills in from the hallway, it waits for them. She doesn't touch it. He doesn't look at it, but they pass it together. Not as separate things, not as maybe, but as yes. He sets the umbrella by the door, not hanging, not closed, just resting. They make tea, slowly. The kettle hums like it remembers them both, and when the cups are poured and the steam rises and the silence returns, it's not the old silence anymore. It's a new one, shared, warmed, complete.